Warning. This video will take you on a terrifying, mysterious murder journey that will blow your mind and send chills down your spine, not just an ordinary murder story. If you're brave enough, watch the video until the end. Because the truths you're about to discover will shock you. Are you ready? Then let's begin. As the cold November wind swept through Cologne like a harsh breath along the Rhine River, the news of the horror unfolding in the narrow streets of the Altstadt district had yet to spread. At 6:47 a.m., as the first light of dawn touched the shadows of the Gothic cathedrals, Heinrich Weber's mutilated body was discovered. Even Klaus Brenner, the most experienced commissioner of the Cologne criminal police, had to take a deep breath in the face of this brutality. The scream of Maria Hoffmann, the cleaning lady who opened the door to Weber's apartment, echoed off the thick walls of the building, waking the neighbors from their sleep. The woman's trembling hands froze on the doorknob, her eyes widening in horror at the scene before her. The living room floor was covered in blood and pieces of flesh, as if it had been worked on a butcher's block. The walls resembled a gruesome work of art created by red droplets. When Klaus Brenner arrived at the scene, the first thing that caught his attention was the professionalism of the method. The way the body had been dismembered was the work of someone with anatomical knowledge. Every cut was clean and calculated. Heinrich Weber's 60-year-old body had been systematically dismantled, just like a cadaver in an anatomy class. But the most disturbing detail was that the victim's head and genitals were completely missing. In his 35 years of police experience, Brenner had never seen anything like this. His gray eyes scanned every corner of the room, searching for clues to the killer's sick plan. The first important detail in the file was that Weber had transferred his jewelry store to a young business partner last month. Could this transfer have been the reason for his death? When the forensic team arrived, Brenner stepped out onto the apartment balcony and gazed at Cologne's foggy landscape. Below, the Rhine River flowed calmly, while above, the work of a monster was on display. His assistant, Jakob Mueller, young and inexperienced though he was, would be a great support to him in this case. The next day, in the cold corridors of Cologne's criminal police headquarters, Brenner and Mueller began to examine the case in depth. Heinrich Weber's life was much more complicated than what was written in the files. The 60-year-old jeweler was a man full of secrets hidden in his past. The interview with Weber's financial advisor, Ingrid Schneider, raised the first suspicions. Schneider stated that Weber had been quite tense in recent months, constantly looking over his shoulder and talking on the phone in secluded places. She also said that his decision to sell the jewelry store had been sudden, and that Weber had been acting as if he were running away from someone. If you've followed this far, have you noticed? There doesn't seem to be an ordinary motive behind the murder. If you were in our shoes, who would you suspect at this point? Share your guesses with us. 600,000 euros, Mueller muttered as he examined the file. This large sum, which had disappeared from Weber's bank account, was at the top of the list of motives for the murder. However, Brenner believed the money was only a secondary factor. Such brutal murders usually had deeper, darker reasons behind them. When Weber's house was searched again in detail, a secret compartment was discovered. Documents found inside a hidden safe in the bedroom wall revealed the dark pages of Weber's past. While living in Berlin in the 1980s, he had established suspicious business partnerships and had connections to criminal organizations. The mystery deepens. If you're still here, your courage is truly admirable. Now comes the really shocking part. Watch carefully so you don't miss it. The most surprising discovery, however, was Weber's personal life. Housekeeper Astrid Bauer and her 28-year-old daughter Ingeborg had been missing for 3 weeks. The two women's relationship with Weber was described as suspicious by neighbors. Investigating Astrid Bauer's past led Brenner and Mueller to one of Cologne's darkest neighborhoods. 58-year-old Astrid, who lived in social housing projects in the Chorweiler district, had had a difficult life. Her ex-husband, Franz Bauer, was an alcoholic and violent man. After the divorce, Astrid tried to make ends meet with cleaning jobs, while her daughter Ingeborg also worked various jobs. When Astrid started working as a cleaner in Heinrich Weber's house, her life changed. Weber provided her and her daughter not only with work, but also with a place to live. However, neighbors suspected that this relationship was not a normal employer-employee relationship. Information that emerged during an interview with Petra Schwartz, a friend of Ingeborg Bauer, added a new dimension to the case. It was learned that Ingeborg had recently been very frightened, felt she was being constantly followed, and that Weber was behaving strangely towards her. "That man isn't normal," Ingeborg had whispered when they last met. "My mother is under his spell. But I see his true face." While recording these statements, Brenner considered the possibility that Weber could be the killer. However, the manner in which the body was found did not support this theory. Weber's dismembered body was evidence of the intense anger and hatred directed towards him. Documents from the Berlin archives shed light on Heinrich Weber's life in the 1980s. Just before the fall of East Berlin, Weber was involved in suspicious diamond smuggling. The Stasi archives revealed that his name had been mentioned in connection with allegations that he had attempted to sell state secrets. Weber's partner at the time, Victor Kruger, had mysteriously disappeared in 1989. Kruger's body was never found, and the case was closed. As Brenner added this information to the file, he wondered whether this dark connection in Weber's past had any relevance to the current murder. Reports from Dr. Anna Richter of the Institute of Forensic Medicine at the University of Cologne shed more light on how the murder was committed. The killer was someone with anatomical knowledge, probably someone who had studied medicine or worked as a butcher. The incision marks indicated that they had been made with professional tools. The most striking detail was the way Weber's head and genitals had been removed. According to Dr. Richter, this type of mutilation usually carried personal revenge or symbolic meaning. The killer didn't just feel anger towards Weber, he wanted to humiliate him, to destroy his identity along with his honor. The new owner of Weber's jewelry store, 35-year-old Thomas Richter, no relation to Dr. Anna Richter, appeared quite nervous when summoned for questioning. Brenner's sharp eyes followed the man's every move. Richter described his meeting with Weber as coincidental, but there were inconsistencies in his story. Richter's answers to questions about the source of the money used in the shop's transfer were unsatisfactory. Brenner suspected that money laundering might be involved. Weber's past connections to criminal organizations reinforced this suspicion. During the search of the back room of the shop, another secret compartment was discovered. The documents found inside showed that Weber was involved in illegal diamond trading, smuggling these stones from Eastern European countries. Among the documents were photos of Astrid and Ingeborg Bauer. These photos revealed a closeness that went far beyond a normal employer-employee relationship. It was clear that Weber had an obsessive interest in Ingeborg in particular. Photographs of the young woman in various poses were indicative of Weber's sick mind. The search for Astrid and Ingeborg Bauer led the police to small towns around Cologne. Information was obtained that they had stayed at a hotel in Bergisch Gladbach, but the two women had left there as well. Every lead grew cold, every clue led to a dead end. Mueller's rookie police energy eventually led them to information that the two women had been seen at a small motel near Frankfurt. Brenner contacted the Frankfurt police as soon as he received this information. Time was critical. If Astrid and Ingeborg weren't the killers, they themselves could be in grave danger. During the trip to Frankfurt, Brenner replayed the case in his mind. Weber's horrific death, the two missing women, the secret diamond trade, scores to settle from the past. What picture emerged when all these clues were pieced together? Among the items found in the motel room was Ingeborg's diary. The fearful lines she had written on its pages revealed Weber's state of mind in his final days. He has completely lost control. My mother can't see it, but I can see the madness in his eyes. He will kill us, I'm sure of it. During the operation carried out with the Frankfurt police, an unexpected discovery was made in the hotel room. Astrid Bauer's body was found in a hidden part of the bathroom. The woman had been dismembered in a similar way to Weber. However, Ingeborg's body was missing. This discovery turned all theories upside down. Now things have completely changed. Who do you think the real killer will turn out to be? Write your comments and let's see who guesses correctly. If Astrid had also been killed, Weber couldn't have been the killer. Brenner had to re-examine the case from the beginning. The real killer was still out there, perhaps ready to kill Ingeborg too. When the hotel records were examined, the room had been booked under a man's name, Victor Kruger. This name sounded familiar to Brenner. That was the name of Weber's former partner in the Berlin archives. But Kruger had disappeared in 1989. What if he was still alive? When Kruger's past was thoroughly investigated, surprising information came to light. The man was not really dead. He had been living under a false identity, tracking Weber for years. The old score to settle in Berlin had finally led to bloodshed. When Frankfurt police investigated the places where Kruger was last seen, they discovered a warehouse belonging to him. The scene inside the warehouse turned even the most experienced police officers' stomachs. The missing body parts of Weber and Astrid were stored in jars filled with formaldehyde. The walls were covered with photos of the two victims. Ingeborg Bauer was still missing, and it was only a matter of time before Kruger found her. Brenner was racing against time to rescue the young woman. Clues taken from Kruger's storage unit indicated that he was hiding in the wooded areas around Frankfurt. The old hunter's cabin at the foot of the Taunus Mountains was Kruger's last refuge. Brenner and Mueller, along with Frankfurt Special Police, surrounded the area. Screams coming from inside the cabin were proof that Ingeborg was still alive. When the operation began, Kruger resisted fiercely. The 73-year-old man fought with surprising strength despite his age. Brenner was the first police officer to enter the cabin. What he saw inside shocked him. Ingeborg, tied to a chair, looked at Brenner in horror. Kruger stood next to the young woman with a machete in his hand, preparing to deliver the final blow. Brenner's critical moment of firing saved Ingeborg's life. Victor Kruger's statement from his hospital bed revealed the whole truth about the events. He explained that Weber had betrayed him in 1989, stealing his entire diamond stock during the collapse of East Germany. He had spent years plotting his revenge, and when he found Weber, he not only wanted to kill him, but also to destroy the people he loved. Killing Astrid Bauer was meant to make Weber suffer. However, he miscalculated Weber's attachment to Astrid. Weber was obsessed with the young Ingeborg, not her mother. This miscalculation ruined Kruger's plan and drove him even crazier. Ingeborg Bauer, undergoing trauma therapy, remembered the terrible days she had lived through. She described how Weber constantly looked over his shoulder in his final days, how he flinched when the phone rang, how he suffered from insomnia. Weber felt Kruger was coming for him but couldn't trust anyone. Mr. Heinrich kept saying, "The past has found me," Ingeborg stated in her testimony. My mother would say to him, "Let's get out of here," but he would reply, "There's nowhere to run." As Brenner closed the file, he felt the deep scars this case had left on him. He had seen how the sins of the past would eventually demand their due, how revenge could destroy entire lives. Victor Kruger, seeking to exact the price for Weber's betrayal, had himself become a monster. Heinrich Weber's head and genitals were found hanging on the wall of Kruger's storage room. The old man kept these parts of his victims as trophies, feeding his feelings of revenge by looking at them. Recorded in the Cologne Criminal Police's files as "Jeweler Murder Case," closed, this case remained in Brenner's memory as one of the darkest cases of his career. While the Rhine River continued to flow through the city as usual, the traces of this horrific story would only fade with time. This incident shows us once again that no crime remains hidden. To make sure you don't miss out on more mysterious and terrifying true stories like this, please subscribe to our channel and don't forget to like and comment on our video. If you want to watch more mysterious and terrifying stories, see you in our next videos.